council which ward would be the one that would pray and pledge, so I guess it is not really necessary since it's me. So let me ask that you call let me call us to order and ask you to call the roll, please.
Yes, sir. Ross?
Here.
White?
Here.
Taylor?
Here.
Robinson?
Here.
Baggett? Phillips?
Here.
Height?
Here.
And Witcher?
Present.
The quorum is present, sir.
Thank you, Ms. Whitby. Can I ask that we stand for the prayer followed by the pledge, and please bow your heads. Dear Father, we thank Thee for the birth of Thy Son and the season that You've given us, for we think of others, we think of family, we think of friends. We certainly honor and respect and appreciate the service of those who are separated from their family members, and what an empty feeling that has to be, and certainly pray for their safe return and return in a healthy and certainly a way that they can rejoin their families in the same that they left them. Thank you, Lord, for the things that You've given this city over the last year. We ask for Your guidance as we bring this year to a close, and certainly ask for Your blessings as we look forward to 2011. We again want to tell You that we honor and praise Your name and that of Your Son, Jesus Christ, in whose name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So moved. Second.
Motion made and seconded that the minutes of the previous meeting be, approved as submitted. Any discussion on the motion?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Do I have a blanket motion?
I move we accept and file 1 through 3, please.
Second.
And I'd like to go ahead and hold number 1 to be read. So this will be, and number 3. Well, let's just do them individually then. Ms. Whitby, would you please read number 1?
Yes, sir. This is a letter dated December 19, 2010. Mayor Patrick Henry Hayes, City Hall. Dear Mayor Hayes, with deep regret, but in the interest of the citizens of North Little Rock, I resign as alderman for Ward 3, effective immediately, so my position can be filled, even though no judgment of conviction will be imposed against me for 90 days or so. I still maintain my innocence and will be appealing the result of the trial, contesting the denial of a severance from trial with my co-defendant because when he refused to testify, that prevented me from calling him as a witness in violation of my constitutional rights to compulsory production of witnesses to put on a complete defense. I am confident in a successful result on appeal, but that will take a year and want North Little Rock government to operate efficiently for the good of the people. I sincerely thank you and all city officials for the graciousness shown me during this trying time for the last 13 months. Sincerely, Samuel G. Baggett.
Okay. Mayor, I need to withdraw my motion to accept and file all 3 at the same time.
I didn't hear. Did I? I don't think I heard a second, Alderman. So we'll count that as fail for lack of a second. So do I have a motion that we accept and file communication 1?
So moved.
Second.
In discussion before I call that for a vote, I know that I've had a chance to visit with several of the council members individually. I haven't heard anyone express a desire otherwise. I know that I indicated that it was going to be my recommendation after consulting with the city attorney that we do differently than what we did a year ago. There's 2 years left on Sam's term. 2 years certainly is, obviously twice the amount of time that what was when we made a selection a year ago when there was a vacancy in former Alderman Gaines's seat. So I know that it seems like that. I haven't heard anybody say otherwise. I know I've been talking to the city attorney's office, and what I want him to comment on. I think Jason has told me that he feels like we would be able to call an election, and that election could be held as soon as the second Tuesday in March, I believe. You want to give us a little rundown? I know that you'd indicated by and large that we did have the choice of selecting among, not among the council, but selecting a member like we did Mr. Baxter. I mean, when we did a year ago, not Mr. Baxter, but Mr. Any event, we know what we're talking about. When we did Alderman Phillips, this time, with 2 years remaining on the term, it certainly appears that ward would be much better in selecting its council member, its replacement for Alderman Baggett, and as such, it would, unless anybody would feel differently, would be my intent to work with the city attorney to see about calling an election, that election would be on the second Tuesday, and I know Jason, I think, and I'll let you comment, thinks that we can do that within that time frame, and that we could be timely if we did it by the first council meeting of next year. Go ahead.
Yes, and I guess the few things that I'd comment on is first to confirm, as you stated earlier, the council can either choose to follow the procedure that we did earlier, where the people who would vote in the election to be held would just be the members of city council. So you would effectively choose a replacement for Alderman Baggett as in the process that we did before. Because the term remaining is greater than 1 year, you also have the option of holding a special election. I know I've talked to a few of you about it who've expressed also the interest in having a special election, and that's feasible. It's authorized under law, and all that has to happen is you have to call for the election. This is kind of similar to what we did before, accepting a letter of resignation and then just kind of informally discussing which process to follow, and then considering it formally at the next city council meeting. If we consider the next city council meeting, the way special elections work is 50 days would have to elapse before the special election could be held, and then it has to be held on the second Tuesday of a month. So if we have it at the next council meeting, the earliest you could have the special election would be the second Tuesday of March. The only contingency in there is to make sure logistically that ballots can be printed and the things that have to be done can be done within that time frame. But I feel pretty confident, since it's just a single ward in which the election will be held, that that's achievable.
Let me, if I could, and I'd just like to open it up for general comment, if I can, because I think there is a general feeling that we would want to call an election, and we'd want to do it as soon as is reasonable. And based on what the city attorney says, that would be the second Tuesday in March. Is there any comments that any council member might want to make?
I would, Mayor. I think I'm in Ward 3, and I was appointed, but I've had people call me, and this is what they would like to see done, too. They would like to see election, and I would, too.
Alderman Height?
Basically, I've heard from a number of my constituents, and I've heard from some people also in Ward 3, because of the length of the term that remains in the vacant seat. I think the people of, especially in Ward 3, want to have some say-so in this, and a special election is probably the most prudent thing to do as far as giving them a voice in who their other aldermen should be. So it would be my support of any legislation to call for a special election.
Well, and if anybody thinks any different than the second Tuesday in March, please let us know too, because that's what I indicated to Jason that we would, I felt we might want to do. So not only call an election, but the timing of the election, if you've got any thoughts on that other than the second Tuesday in March. Alderwoman White?
Well, I'm echoing what Alderman Height and Alderman Phillips have said, that the people of Ward 3 have indicated it's been, every person I've spoken to have had that response to have a special election, as well as people from other wards.
Alderwoman Robinson?
How much time would they have to campaign?
And that's another deadline that the resolution calling for the election would have to set, would be when is the filing deadline, so that when will it be open, when will it be closed. And of course, whenever the election is called, then obviously they could begin campaigning then, but the filing, there would have to be a filing deadline that would have to be identified within the resolution calling for the election.
Well, I'd just say, you know, that unless there's somebody that, I mean, we pretty well, I think, a consensus of calling an election, so I'd suggest if anybody was interested, they start campaigning now.
Right.
Alderwoman.
That was my comment. Is there anything to stop them from starting the campaign tonight?
No, especially given the impression that City Council has consensus that at least we're feeling right now, barring other objections, that a special election will be called. That would probably be advisable for people to get their name out, state their interest, and begin that campaign mode.
Well, I don't hear any council member thinking otherwise, so I think it's just the timing. I haven't heard anyone say anything other than the second Tuesday in March. So again, I'm going to assume that's a consensus. Alderman-elect Baxter, if you'd like to, we'd like to hear from you. If you feel, I think I've kind of read what you think, but let me offer the microphone to you if I can.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity. I would just like to say, in considering that special election, that we ensure that we give those candidates who wish to pursue the office an opportunity to conduct their door-to-door part of the campaign. The bad part about it is we're going through a period of time now where it starts to get, or where it is getting dark fairly early. And I know that towards the end of my campaign, I had to really alter what I did as far as door-to-door based on the fact that you didn't want to go up and knock on some folks' door when obviously when the lights were out. So, you know, I just like to consider that. However, you know, if you want that job, you can get out there on the weekend, which is what I had to do during the runoff. So, just something to consider.
We appreciate it. We know knocking on doors after dark sometimes may lose you more votes than it gets you, so you've got to exercise that kind of a judgment call. City Attorney?
One point and one question. I would just like to clarify, you know, whatever costs are incurred as part of the special election would have to be borne by the city. It probably would not be an exorbitant cost for a special election in one ward. I mean, I think it would be less than $15,000. And the other question would be that from a drafting perspective is what a reasonable filing period would entail. If 2 weeks sounds reasonable, if that would be acceptable to City Council, then we can draft the resolution in that fashion.
Alderwoman?
As in the regular filing period, 10 days, something like that, 2 weeks anyway? I mean, that's basically what, you know, any normal one, so you're good there.
Well, what I'm going to suggest then is that we have legislation prepared, that the legislation will call a special election to be held on the second Tuesday in March, that you, hopefully this week, if you can, Jason, get some feel from the Election Commission if there are any problems with that, you know, and if there are, and any kind of a special meeting of this council could address that, then at least give us that notice. But I'm going to assume that we're going to be able to take care of this at the first meeting in January, which I believe is the 10th?
Yes, sir.
And that essentially we'll have a 2-week filing period. The election will be on the second Tuesday in March. And if anyone's interested, I would say, without having heard any comments to the contrary by the council, that that's pretty much what it'll be, unless for some reason there are procedural delays that would cause perhaps a 1-month delay. So, you know, as Alderwoman Ross said, anyone that's interested, obviously you've got to be an elector from that ward, you know, feel free to move forward, because I feel pretty sure that that's the way that it'll take place. Before I call for a vote on the motion to accept and file, you know, former Alderman Baggett's letter, I just want to comment that, you know, that I am sure and respect the verdict of the jury. You know, the allegations in that complaint did not have anything to do with business with this city. And I said when I was called to testify that I had a great deal of respect for Sam Baggett, that he conducted himself honorably as an alderman, that he worked to represent his ward, that he cared about the people of his ward, and certainly worked tirelessly for them. And I know that many of, as I read in the paper, many of our comments go with the thoughts and prayers for his family and certainly his future. The letter indicated that he's going to be progressing an appeal. I'm sure that I speak for many, and not all, but I'm sure many when I say that our best wishes go with Sam and Carla and his family. With that, on the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
All right, number 2, you want to read that by title?
Yes, sir. A memorandum from Glenda Craigmile, Mayor's Office, regarding a retail liquor and retail beer off-premises replacement from Kevin Dugan for Best Shot Liquor on 5312 MacArthur Drive.
Move accept and file.
Second.
On the motion?
Ross?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Number 3.
Please read it by title.
This is a letter from Mayor Hayes to the council members regarding effective January 1, 2011. The downtown RV park will be managed by the North Little Rock Visitors Bureau.
Move we accept and file.
Second.
On the motion?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
No scheduled presentations. Let me go ahead and convene a public hearing. I know we called one for last council meeting on the budget. I don't see anyone who has signed up to speak, but notwithstanding that, I'm going to go ahead and open that up in case anyone has changed their mind. The microphone is now open for anyone that might want to comment on the proposed budget.
Good evening. My name is James Zard. One quick comment. All the city employees, if I understand correctly, did get a raise of some type. And I personally feel that each one of the council members should come up with a raise. So, Mayor, it'd be nice if you would enter something in that, because some of them don't get paid near what they're worth. Thank you.
I know you're speaking of me, Mr. Hart, I'm sure. Thank you for that pat on the back. And speaking of pat on the back, so we're very proud, and we'll go into the budget in just a second, but we're very proud to have guests in town who are family, and I'd like to turn the microphone over to Alderwoman White and share with us some of your relatives who are with us.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a rare opportunity for me, and I'm going to grab it. I have all my 3 children here, and 2 of my son-in-law and a daughter-in-law here, and I'd like to just briefly introduce them, because my daughter with the 3-year-old on the end and her husband can't spend much more time here, I don't think. Please, would you stand up? Salomon Itza, Dr. Salomon Itza, professor of physics at University of the Ozarks. Their son, Sam, who it will be 3 in a few weeks. My daughter, Erin, who is
Now,
also...
wait a minute. He's your grandson.
Grandson. Did I say that? Son-in-law?
You said son, his son.
His son, my grandson.
There we go.
Sam Itza, and he'll be 3, and his mother, who is my daughter, Erin, and she is due to have number 2 in a few weeks. She also teaches at the University of Ozarks. She teaches biology. My son, Todd, who lives in California, he's an aerospace engineer for NASA. And he also, I'm going to mention something else. His wife, Elspeth, who is my daughter-in-law, she's an attorney in California. And my daughter on the end, Megan, special ed teacher and former praise and worship leader at a church in Jonesboro. The 3 children of mine all graduated from North Little Rock High School. Great educations, and they're doing well, and I appreciate North Little Rock and the high schools that we have in the schools. My husband's there too. He's so faithful. Tom, thank you very much.
Thank you all for being with us. And we certainly appreciate the time that you have given your mother-in-law, and certainly wife to spend in helping the city of North Little Rock. It's greatly appreciated, and we wish everyone a Happy New Year, not only the White family, but all of those that are here, and certainly those at home, that may we have a great 2011 in North Little Rock. With that, we had Mr. Sisson, you want to come to the microphone in case there are questions? We might as well go ahead and deal with the budget, since that was the public hearing. I think we talked a little bit about it last time. Generally speaking, y'all heard me comment on it. It's pretty much the same. Mr. Ard's correct. in that there's a proposed 3% increase that will be staged in, with the first percent being January 1st, the second percent being at the end of that quarter, April the 1st, with the final percent being instituted July 1st. Obviously, those will be permanent increases, and that then will be what we deal with in terms of the budget year for 2012 and thereafter. I know I heard from some of our employees, I understand several council members did, about their appreciation for the 1% bonus. That bonus, again, was not a wage increase, but something that we felt was very well earned, received, and due, and appreciated by those employees. This budget, by and large, is pretty much similar, except for the raises. There's a $2 million increase we're asking from the electric department. And by the way, in the electric department budget, there also, we feel, are sufficient funds to duplicate what we did last year, which was a 5% reduction in residential rates and 3% reduction in commercial rates. Some other things that $2 million will cover, in addition to what we are proposing with regard to the reduction in rates, are unfortunately, if MetroPlan's correct, it looks like we're going to get a 1% reduction in our countywide penny. From 16.7% to 15.7%. Those numbers will be certified the latter part of March, I think, maybe the 1st of April. And that 1% would translate into $625,000. For some reason, maybe lower prices or consumption, although with the weather as it's been, it may or may not be, but we experienced a reduction in franchise fees, most of which we feel was attributed to a reduction in natural gas that was sold to all of us by CenterPoint. Our health insurance is about $160,000 more. Our workman's comp, for the first time, took a significant leap of $150,000. Unemployment insurance, that increased to around $45,000. Our regular step and grades, $214,000. CATA was $63,000, and then the raise is about $551,000, which altogether covers roughly the $2 million. We did not project any increase in our sales tax. We hope that we were, and feel, to be honest with you, that we were reasonably conservative in that projection. I think our friends across the river were 2.5 or
2.5 to 3, I think.
2.5 to 3%, and we hope they make it. We hope it happens. But our budget was not projected with that in mind. We feel it's a reasonable budget. We feel that the services that the citizens have been receiving will continue at the same level, and our employees, I'm sure, will both appreciate and, as I said a little earlier, deserve that 3% increase. Mr. Sisson, is there any high points that you want to hit, or any?
I think the only thing, Mayor, which you read in the communication, RV park is no longer in this budget. It's the A&P will manage it. And,
right.
And in the capital improvement fund, we've allocated $150,000 to each ward drainage rather than 125. That, and in the special projects in the general fund, we've allocated $10,000 to neighborhood gardens. That's the first time we've done that. So I think that, Mayor, will include most of it.
Any questions by any council member? Let me underline again, that this is a working document, that by no means do we feel that it is something that can't and won't, in fact, be amended, and that there will be things that come about that, as this council, who's been here for everyone pretty much except for Alderman Phillips for a couple years, Alderman Phillips for a year roughly, that knows that we deal with this on a very frequent basis. So, questions? Alderwoman Ross?
I have several, but let's start with this one. The River Rail, Little Rock, they refuse to pay their additional portion. Are we leaving that in our budget? What are we doing, the $17,000? 340?
Well, there are a couple things. Judge Valines has passed the county budget, and his portion is in there for River Rail. I obviously have left ours in. Little Rock, I'm not sure, we've heard a few comments, none directly, that there may be some action sometime during the year. I know that when Judge Valines and I both met individually as well as with Betty Wineland and asked for a review of the route structure, and I used the phrase FaceTime, and FaceTime in referring to the time the trolley was actually clacking on the tracks in North Little Rock, and as it relates to Little Rock, and I think that we feel pretty confident that between 60 to 70% of the time that you have FaceTime for trolleys, that Little Rock is the beneficiary of that. And I had felt that that was reasonably justified because of the extension to the Clinton Library, that we have the next choice, and that that the system is a system, and that we have access to moving people from North Little Rock to any extremes on the system. What Little Rock has done is heightened my interest, we'll say, in trying to decide whether or not I feel that that's equitable in terms of the allocation of the operational expenses, which were a third of the cost. The county obviously is a third, and I'd say in some instances a swing vote. The interlocal agreement does not seem to provide for what is done if somebody does not put their 1/3 up. So I guess to answer your question with regard to the River Rail allocation, I'm leaving it in there. I hope it stays in there. I feel like that at the very minimum, if Little Rock doesn't put theirs in, there will definitely be an increase in terms of frequency and access to River Rail that would be reflected in North Little Rock, and even maybe if Little Rock puts its third in there, because I know that that Judge Valines has indicated to me that he feels that this is a point that has some merit in terms of the discussions that he and I've had. So that's what I know at the moment.
So as far as frequency, they would run more often in North Little Rock, from North Little Rock to the Little Rock side, or just in the North Little Rock loop?
Well, they're looking at different approaches. Ms. Wineland, along with the other folks, whoever she has working on it, are looking at things such as extending a trolley that simply goes to the Chamber of Commerce building in Little Rock and then back and forth and runs the route over here. That we may have a North Little Rock circle, or whatever options that they're looking at that would increase the frequency of beneficial movement of the trolley in North Little Rock. And obviously, one of the most enjoyable sections of that trolley is going back and forth across the river. The bridge is aesthetically one of the high points. In fact, at one time, and I haven't checked on it recently, but at one time, 2/3 of the traffic that rode River Rail would ride the bridge just simply because of the view. So the answer is we're looking at the options and certainly are sensitive to what this city pays. Without a doubt, it's still a good deal with us, or for us, because of 1/3 of the operating expenses to have an active river rail system, with the county being a third partner, is still a good deal. But we're going to see about making it a better one.
Would we, is this a one lump sum that we pay once a year? Would we know this up front before we pay this? Or, as
We
far
pay it
as...
monthly.
We pay it monthly, and rest assured, this is an ongoing, recommendation. So it's not going to be a lump sum payment that we do January 1st. It'll be something ongoing, and it's certainly my intent to ensure that what this city pays is reflected in the equity that we receive in the operational aspects of the system.
Are we still in discussion? Different
Sure.
questions, or are we going to bring this up later? Are we going to vote on it now, or is...
Well, no, right now,
Now's the time? Okay. Can you just tell us a little bit about the neighborhood gardens for each ward, the requirements for that?
Well, right now, and I'll let Alderwoman White help me out on this, we are very interested in trying to move forward health and nutrition in this city. And, you know, our grant of $1.5 million for us working with the school district to help attack childhood obesity, in addition to our consulting opportunity with the National League of Cities. I know we had a chance to go to Jackson and visit about that. Community gardens, both learning about where food comes from, about helping inspire. For the first time, I understand that the family farm has increased in terms of numbers of folks, and that's in no small measure what we understand is because of the markets, the family markets, the Argenta downtown market. Alderwoman White, if you want to chip in and add a few comments, we wanted to try to do something to inspire community gardens in every ward, and we're working on the criteria. That's something that is a bit of a challenge, as we found out. Beth?
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing this up. The concept of community gardens is not new. There have been community gardens in North Little Rock in the past. My hope is in the future that we will have a more organized effort, and certainly the funds available to us for this can get a good start for some gardens. We are right now, in fact, I met with Dan Scott last week. There's more meetings to come, coming up with a very sound criteria, which will be guidelines for people that want to do gardens, that they will have certain conditions that will have to be met. For instance, just let me just throw a few out, you know, availability of water, soil testing, who's going to maintain the gardens, when the gardens are finished, who's going to clean them up and clean the site. There's a lot of aspects that need to be addressed, and we want that right on the front end because our goal is to help people make their gardens successful. We also are planning to include a part in it that if a group wants to sell their produce at our certified at our farmers market in North Little Rock, that we will have it in place that they can go through the steps that their garden and their produce will be able to be sold there. They'll have to have it examined at the beginning, and there's a few things they have to do. So to me, it's we've gone about this in the right way. We're going to have a sound plan for people to be successful. And there's already, I would believe, 3 groups and maybe if possible 4 that are interested in community gardens. So.
Yeah, let me go ahead and let's do this. I meant to just have it read, and so that we'll put it before us, and then if we want to make any, legislative motions or amendments, then you'll have the opportunity to do that. Ms. Whitby, go ahead and read it for the final time. 1088.
This will actually be the second reading because at the last meeting, the rules were suspended, but it was never actually read the second time. So this will be the second formal reading.
Well.
An ordinance adopting a budget for the 2011 fiscal year for the City of North Little Rock, second reading.
All right, let's go ahead and attach Exhibit A if we can. Do I have a motion to attach Exhibit A?
I think that is on the 2010 budget. You're talking about the 2011
Oh,
budget.
okay, you're right. I'm sorry, I'm talking about the 2011 budget.
Yes, sir.
Okay, that's what we're on now.
Yes, sir.
Oh, no wonder. Okay, all right, so we don't have to attach anything on the 2011 budget then?
No, sir.
All right, and so we now have read it twice.
Yes, sir.
Let's go ahead and take it to third reading if I can, and then any amendments that maybe that anyone might want to propose, then we can deal with that at this time. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
On the motion, suspend the rules?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance adopting a budget for the 2011 fiscal year for the City of North Little Rock, third and final reading.
Okay, we're in discussion and any potential amendments.
If no one else is going, I'll go. Back to the $470,000 that we give to Sherwood. We gave it to them last year, and it's in the electric department's budget again this year. I didn't understand the first time we did it. I still don't understand when they're already receiving the franchise fee that we're collecting. They call it profit sharing or revenue sharing. When you don't have anything on the line, I don't understand why we're giving them the share. They have no obligation whatsoever. And I'd like to amend, this is my amendment to remove the $470,000.
Is there a second? Is there a second? Motion fails for lack of a second, but I'll be happy to answer your question. You know, Sherwood is roughly, I believe, Mr. Russ, 17% of our system. You know, we, last year I made the recommendation and felt that 17% of the system, when we were adding roughly $5 million, $5.3 million, or 4.7. 4.7. And Sherwood has made the case a number of times in terms of, and I know their franchise fee is actually, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Sisson, tacked on top of what.
They pay that much more than we do, yes.
They pay what our bills are plus a franchise fee. That you know that was fair. That one who supported us as customers, and they were 17% of our system. That when we increased the dollars that we took from the electric department, that would be a fair return to a customer base, and that the most logical way to do it would be through an increased allocation to them. So that's what I thought then, and that's what I said then, and that's what I think now. Next item. Next, any other?
But Mayor, I guess the question then comes about, how much longer do you anticipate us doing something like this?
Well, it would be my recommendation, as long as we continue to take a similar amount out of the electric department, would be my recommendation. Now, obviously, that's up for discussion as it is now at any point in the future. Further discussion?
I know that it died for lack of a second, but I think I wish that the city, we could work with negotiating with AT&T and the other utilities that we have in the company about revenue sharing with them also. If Sherwood can get money from us, then I think we should be able to get money from Energy or not necessarily Energy, but AT&T, Windstream, all the other ones that we receive a franchise tax from. There's no difference.
I'm not fully with the logic, but I understand, what
It's revenue sharing. They all receive revenues. They're making profits off of us.
I mean, I still don't understand your logic.
Well, yeah, it's the same thing. Okay, on to the second one. Aid to AIM, have they received any kind of grants or anything for the year to help with their expenses? We started out at 50,000, went to 100,000, now we're at 200,000.
It's the same amount as what we had last year.
Right.
Now, I know that AIM has increased its attendance. They are, to answer your question, I am not aware of a grant at this moment. I can find that out and certainly will share that information with you. The attendance is up. The schools, the school children that are coming to visit that institution has been at a record in terms of the numbers of folks that are being there. The next 6 weeks, 5 of those 6 weeks, there will be school groups that will be spending the night on that vessel. I think it's a living memorial is what it, at least what I feel it is, and we're not asking for any increase like we did last year. It's the same thing, and we feel that that's sufficient and would hope that the council would support that.
Do we charge the school groups? Mm-hmm. We do charge them?
Yes, we do.
My question, regarding AIM is that how much money, do we know offhand how much money we made last year from the tours and all?
I don't have it here. We can sure send it to you tomorrow. I'll get with the airport, the AIM,
Okay.
whatever his name is. I'm like the mayor. I will have it sent to you tomorrow.
Thank you.
I would think that if we are putting in 200,000, we ought to be able to, at least our students in the city, schools, school age groups or whatever, we should be able to at least finance that in for them.
Well, and they may. I don't know the answer to that question right now, but I would think that we probably would make some accommodations. If we don't, I'm sure we could.
Okay, I'm done.
Any other questions or comments? Do I have a motion to adopt the budget?
We'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Any further discussion on the motion?
Ross?
No.
On the motion, Ms. Whitby?
Okay, Ross, no. White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
Witcher.
Yes.
On the emergency, Ross.
No.
White.
Yes.
Taylor.
Yes.
Robinson.
Yes.
Phillips.
Yes.
Height.
Yes.
And Witcher.
Yes.
Next item, Ms. Whitby.
Public comment, citizen public comment on the rest of the stuff.
Okay. Yeah, we have several folks that have signed up for public comment on several different items. The microphone's now open for those who have signed up.
Mayor, you did say more than one, didn't you?
Excuse me?
I hate to go first every time.
Well, there are several that have signed up, Mr. Ard, but feel free.
Okay, ordinance 1094, and I realize this is going to be a question, but it's something I want to make sure I understand correctly. Alderman Witcher got a swimming pool repaired, and the public was allowed to go swimming. And am I correct, Alderman Witcher? Yes or no? Just shake your head. Okay.
Public uses it.
Do what, sir?
The public uses it.
Right. Are we going to be able to go fishing in this lake since the city is helping them, which is, in my opinion, the same thing, and we can't go public? The people in North Little Rock cannot go fishing in Lakewood unless you know someone, my understanding.
I'm glad, fine you asked that, Mr. Ard. They've got 3 or 4 people who want to answer it, but I'll start with our city attorney.
Well, I don't want to step on an
It's
alderman if
okay.
they've got their hand up.
Go ahead. I'll follow.
The interest is different, and the purpose in the city participating in the Lakewood Lakes has to do with our drainage systems. It doesn't have to do with a recreational purpose. You know, that's why whenever we participated in the Indian Hills pool, then, you know, the city had to have equity in the form of citizens being able to use that on an equitable basis and acquire rights for the citizens as a whole. Citizens' rights in the lakes would be its value to the general public as a drainage structure.
Alderman Ross?
This is just a comment as to who can use the lakes, and, you know, I did call and check on this, and don't hold me to the exact figure on this, but anyone can join the Lakewood Property Owners Association, whether you live in Lakewood or not. The fee for a non-resident was $275. There's a $100 one-time application fee. After that, it's $275. For residents, it's $195, but they also pay to the LRD, which is the Improvement District, $175. So basically, it's cheaper if you don't live in Lakewood. So anybody is welcome to join.
And that's been the way that they've operated for some time. And again, you know, that drainage system operates as stormwater retention. It's a big advantage to the city. We've done it before. This is not an unusual thing for us to support that kind of a need, and we're happy to do it, assuming the council supports it. All right, Mr. Taylor.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. My name is Bobby Taylor. On this, I have a problem with the way that our city follows up on these special use permits. This is on this 4401 East Broadway in this trailer park. I would like to see this special use permit held up till this trailer park is brought up to standard. And I'd also like to see the permit on overnight camping for the RV be held totally. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Microphone's still open.
Hello, I'm Joe Reynolds, and I appreciate the opportunity to comment. I'm commenting on 1086, which is 4401 East Broadway, the trailer park. I attended 2 planning commission meetings where this was discussed at length, and there's most definitely a split decision on the vote over there. It was not unanimous either way. It was not, it passed, but it was not unanimous. This seems to me that this property has not been maintained, not been taken care of for a long period of time, for years actually. It looks terrible, it looks rough, and it's my considered opinion that some of those trailers are not inhabitable. I don't think that North Little Rock needs this, and as far as it being, allowing RVs to be in a trailer park with used units or used house trailers, manufactured homes, whatever you want to call them, is not a good thing. If you do this, what's wrong with the next trailer park wanting RVs in there? So we don't even need this thing, so I would appreciate your consideration on this, and I think if anybody hadn't gone down and looked at it, you should have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Reynolds. Microphone's still open. Jeff, why don't we, I tell you what I'm going to do this. I know you're going to, I'm going to take up these items individually, and just so we can make sure everyone's aware of them, if I could, I'll just hold your comments as well as Mr. Insulaco's until just before we deal with the legislation. Any other, anyone else? I don't believe, Ms. Hardcastle, that kind of goes for you too if you're out there. That way, in case anybody wants to know, we'll be dealing with these items as we deal with the legislation that they're subject of. That's unless anyone has an objection. No one else appears on the public comment before the council acts. So let me go back. Mr. Sisson, you want to come back, and now let's go and make sure I'm on target with 01088. I don't know that we've had any real changes, but I know we have this amendment to add. So let's go ahead and read 01088, Ms. Whitby.
Yes, sir. An ordinance amending ordinance number 8220, the 2010 budget, second reading.
Let's go ahead and take it to third budget and then amend it, and then we'll have any questions, if I can.
Move suspend the rules and place on second reading.
I think it's the
Second.
second. Is that right, Ms. Whitby?
That was the second reading, so you're
Placed on
suspending.
third reading.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion to suspend the rules?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance amending ordinance number 8220, 2010 budget, third and final reading.
Okay, now let's move to attach Exhibit A.
Yes.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion to amend by attaching Exhibit A, Ms. Whitby?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes. Move to adopt as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Sisson, anybody got any questions? I don't think there's a whole lot of changing, but if they do,
There wasn't many. We delayed because there was very few of them. I can explain each one of them if anyone wants to listen. Most of them are like the animal shelter, and is because we've collected some more money and we pay for veterinarian fees. The emergency services is overtime. We've had some sicknesses and shortage of personnel. In the court ordinance, we will propose to add 2 employees to try to avoid some of the overtime. The police, now that, like Walmart, they work overtime, and then we collect the money from them. So police overtime has been increased, but if you look on the revenue part, we've collected $240,000 from that. And then Public Works, these are engineering fees, we've had a lot of grants,
we've got a question, just a second. Alderman Ross.
I'm just curious, on the CenterPoint franchise fee, it was down $288,000
Yes, ma'am.
less this year. Why was that down?
You know, I don't know why. I know Little Rock's having the same problem. I assume they lowered the rates.
We just need to do revenue sharing. Okay.
The Public Works, as I was saying, is because these are engineers to do our grants. Some of that will be reimbursed in 2011, but those are 3 things. None of those were accident. We've known all those from the time they spent the money.
On the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor? Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
Witcher?
Yes.
On the emergency, Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
01086.
Please call it.
An ordinance granting a special use to allow a mobile home park in a C3 zone for property located at 4401 East Broadway in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas. Third and final reading again.
Like to discuss this, Mayor.
Okay.
First of all, I know that there are some of my peers have some recommendations for amendments. One of the things that I'd like to see taken out is under Section 2B regarding RVs, that no RVs be allowed except when speaking to the owner, she would like for her son a small RV, and I don't know if you call it an RV, to be stored at the facility, but no one would live in it. So let's talk about that. I am wanting to amend this to remove, RVs where RVs are not in and out of there. So what are your feelings about that, council?
We might try this. We might go ahead and see if we can get a motion to adopt on third and final. Then that way we can amend it.
Well, I think we need to discuss it because, I don't think we have 100% consensus
Okay?
on this legislation.
Okay.
So I was thinking maybe we can talk about it and,
Well, I'm sure game. We try to find a way to, let people discuss what they want to here. Alderwoman Rawson and White.
City code, and I may need Tom Wadley or Robert Bowles or Mr. Carter on this, but isn't there a city statute that says it's either an RV park or it's a mobile home park, that it can't be a mixture of both? Isn't there some city code?
I'm going to have to defer to Mr. Voiles on that. I think this is more of his lane.
I had it written down and I didn't bring it.
I know we traditionally had trailer courts, and that was, we made that mobile home parks. But we're advancing this through a special permit so that we can establish rules on it. It's currently Zone C3. It's a non-conforming use. And we thought this would be the way to resolve, plus attach conditions that make it better for the neighbors. But I don't know the answer to your question, whether we allow mixtures. This is something the Planning Commission added during the meeting. Planning staff recommended no mobile homes, RVs in the mobile home park. But
Is Mr. Wadley here? Maybe it was Mr. Wadley I was...
Yeah, Tom's here.
I can't remember if you were I don't remember who I was...
Yes, it's an either-or. Matter of fact, we've issued citations on this and other trailer parks that have had.
So it is a
RVs.
city code that it's either an RV park or it's a...
Yes.
Okay. So we need to be uniform when we do this.
so we can remove B.
Okay.
While Mr. Wadley is there.
Wait a minute, Tom, don't leave just yet. One of the, I guess one of the things that I think might be a way to try to move this forward is to see if we can get a motion for adoption. Now, recognizing that if you move for adoption, that's just putting it in front of us to be able to put it for amendment. It does not indicate what you're going to vote. So, if we're going to try to fix it up, if we are, then we need to try to put it in a position for amendments.
Okay.
So, is that your motion to adopt?
We can
All right, is there a second?
motion to adopt.
Okay, motion made and seconded for adoption, and now it's on the floor so that we can move for amendments if we choose to, not indicating that means just because you moved or seconded that you may end up supporting the ultimate legislation. So with that, we're open for discussion, we're open for amendments, all right? And we've got Mr. Voiles, Mr. Wadley there. Who wants the floor? Alderwoman White?
Well, I would like to propose an amendment to this. It's not exactly what we were just talking about, but we can go back to that. In Section E, trash, brush, tree limbs to be removed from site, and a general cleanup is required. I'd like to get rid of that period at the end of the sentence, and to be maintained on a continuous basis. This trailer park is 30 years old, and there certainly has been improvement in the last 2 to 3 weeks as we view it, but there's 30 years behind us of maybe not being kept up, and I'd like to make sure on the front end, if this does pass, that we have that written in.
All right, what's your amendment again?
So it would be at E, and add to that, to be maintained on a continuous basis.
Okay. Is there a second to that motion to amend?
Second.
Any discussion on that motion to amend? Ms. Whitby?
Ross?
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
Do we need to be more specific on maintained? Are we just talking about the brush and the limbs being maintained, or just the general cleanup, or to code? Mr. Wadley could help us on that one.
All right,
Mr. Wadley, you're the one that does the code book. You're the code man, so.
Sorry, what was the question?
Under E, one of the requirements is trash, brush, tree limbs to be removed from site and a general cleanup is required. Alderman White has amended, she wants to add, to be maintained on a continuing basis. Does that give you a leg to?
Yes.
Continuous?
Suggest to the current city property maintenance codes.
Okay.
Refer to that.
Okay, Mr. Carter can do that.
What did you just say?
You want that part of the amendment?
Wait a minute, what did you
Yeah,
say,
what
Tom?
he said.
Could you state your amendment one more time? I know you've got it written down.
To be maintained on a continuous basis, added to the end of E, and then,
Continuous.
but it sounds like it might be even better this way. Go ahead.
In other words, I think that Alderwoman White is intending is that E be an ongoing requirement.
And the requirement being the property maintenance code, I think is what she's asking.
Yeah, I've got you. I'm almost there.
I believe
Property maintenance code, okay.
In accordance with the property maintenance.
Right, that's all we're trying to say. So in other words, to add on to the end, to be maintained on a continuous basis in accordance with the city's property maintenance code.
I think that's a friendly amendment that she's nodded to, so I'll accept that as a motion and second. Discussion on the motion to amend?
I have a question
All right.
of Mr. Carter and Mr. Wadley, and you know where I'm headed on this question. Do
Now,
we?
this is on the motion to amend.
Well, the motion to amend concerns our requirement for maintaining.
Right.
And I think you and I have had several discussions, Mr. Wiley, about property and the way people are maintaining them, that we do not have. Do we have an ordinance on the books that requires people to maintain their property at certain standards?
Yes, sir, that's what the property maintenance code is. It's minimum property requirements for structures. Are you talking about the exterior of the property?
I'm talking the real estate, not the building itself, but the front yard, the backyard, the side yard.
I think you're referring to, is there an outside storage ordinance? Is that what you're referring to? About
Outside storage building?
About what you can and can't store outside?
No, I'm asking, do we have an ordinance on the books that requires people to keep their yard in?
In
Yes.
accordance to the property maintenance?
We
as far
do.
as-
Our property maintenance and nuisance abatement code, it's pretty extensive.
I guess-
It's a substantial ordinance.
You'd have to give me a specific, I don't understand. I mean, it.
The answer is
It
yes.
just says what the grass heights are, I mean, it's not whether it's ugly or not, it's what the minimum standards are that's outlined that the council's adopted.
Mayor, if I may, and I'll need Mr. Wadley and Mr. Carter also. I guess one of the things that occur to me is if we do not adopt this as a special use, the owners are still bound by the maintenance and property codes that we
Yes.
have. And it's just a matter of them
Right.
complying with those over time. Is that, if we don't adopt this, is that?
That's correct. They're still obligated to maintain their property in accordance with the city's property maintenance code. The difference by making this a condition of the special use is not only would they be subject to fine, but they'd be subject to having their special use revoked for noncompliance.
Okay, Mark, one of the things that I did, and this is a statement, one of the things that I did today is I drove through the trailer park today. And, you know, while it's obvious that they have made some improvements with fencing and cut a lot of trees and piled a lot of brush, I know I would not be excited about having that trailer park in my neighborhood. And I visited with both Ms. Robinson and Mr. Taylor this afternoon in that regard. But if we don't adopt a special use, I think we still should pursue getting that thing cleaned up.
Alderman Taylor and then Alderwoman Ross.
This is not on the amendment, so I'll wait.
Okay, if it's on the amendment, Mr. Carter?
I'd just like to make one comment that regarding our property maintenance code and its relationship to manufactured housing. You need to know that federal law regulates the construction of manufactured homes. And from a safety aspect, we are preempted. When those manufactured homes bear the stamp of compliance with federal safety regulations, then that defines a standard by which they have to be constructed. And our ability to regulate those is minimized. That rule does not apply to the foundations upon which those manufactured homes sit, and it does not apply to the surrounding area. Our city regulations will govern.
Okay, but I am.
So I just want to make sure you understood the extent of that.
I am assuming because of the age of those dwellings that they were grandfathered in until they're replaced. Is that true or not true?
Well, I mean, Mr. Voles is telling me that he believes that that was a non-conforming site. So, you know, the mobile homes that were there would be given a non-conforming status if it is in fact a non-conforming site. As long as they're after 1974, that's when the rule applies about the federal preemption stamp, if that was what your question related to.
Yes.
Okay.
Alderman Ross?
This is for Mr. Wadley.
Okay.
Since this is a C3, does it have different property maintenance codes than an R1? Can their grass be taller there than on the commercial? Okay. I didn't know if there was a separate.
Okay, we're on the amendment, remember? All right, you want to, and if nobody else has a question or comment on the amendment, let's see if we can deal with the amendment. You want to repeat that, Ms. Whitby?
Yes, sir. At the end of number E, after the period, that will be changed to a comma, and it will say, "To be maintained on a continuous basis in accordance with the city's property code." Is that right?
On the motion.
Ross?
Can I add one thing to it?
Sure.
The concrete that's piled up outside the back gate, when I was out there today, the city does not pick up those big chunks of concrete, so they're responsible for removing that. Can we add that into this? Because it's out on the street.
Mr. Wadley, is that covered by the exterior already?
I've talked to him about that. We're trying to find somebody to assist him to get that removed. I mean, it may be his ultimate responsibility, but we're trying to find somebody.
But the question is do
Oh,
you
sure, he
feel-
can't leave it there. It won't be, he couldn't leave it there.
Okay, so
It'll
that's
be
covered.
gone.
It'll have to be gone.
That's covered. All right, on the motion to amend.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
All right, we're open for discussion.
What about the removal, section 2B?
The removal of section 2B. Are you suggesting we do anything with that?
Well,
Or
we
amend
don't
that?
want, we don't want RVs.
All right. Alderwoman Ross.
Is that your amendment?
To remove RVs.
All right. So 4 slips may be used for temporary RV rental slips with a 30-day maximum length of stay. You want that entire sentence?
I want that whole thing removed.
Pardon me, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion to remove that sentence, Ms. Whitby?
Just the sentence about the 4 slips.
That's correct.
All the way to the end.
Or do you want that all the way to the
Whole
end of
sentence.
The whole section B.
You want to take out the part
Hang on.
allowing the
The whole
18
sentence.
slips?
Hang on, hang on,
paragraph?
hang on,
I'm
hang on.
sorry, no, the sentence.
The whole paragraph.
Well, I think
whole
what
thing
you may
deals-
want to do is to keep just the first sentence of subsection B and delete the remainder.
Wait a minute, keep what?
Keep the first sentence of subsection B and delete the remainder, I think is
Allow the reuse of previously used slips.
limiting the total number to 18 slips. That has no bearing on the.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
that's
so
right,
then that
yeah.
way
And then
they
delete
could,
the
they
rem-
could bring in
Yeah,
mobile
right.
homes?
Yes.
Yeah, starting with four
Okay.
of the slips may be used, and then the remainder, because that refers to the RVs.
Okay, anything related to RVs?
All right, so that would be the next,
That's
three
through the remainder
sentences.
of the paragraph.
The remainder of the paragraph, I think, is 3
Okay.
sentences.
That is the motion, and that's the second.
Okay, so I want to hear it.
Okay, essentially, the only thing that would be left in section B would be one sentence, and that sentence would read, allow the reuse of previously used slips, limiting the total number to 18 slips. That's it.
Delete everything that refers to RV.
That's correct, in that section.
Okay,
Now, have you, the owner, have you discussed this with the owner, Alderman Robinson?
Yes, I've discussed this with the owner. Now, the only thing that they really want to do is to allow him to store his camping trailer that he takes to the Deer Woods once a year somewhere on the property, but, that's why I said, we could discuss that, but I'm not for any RVs there. I really don't have a problem with him being able to store his deer wood there, but it may be a conflict there where I'm saying remove RVs, but allow him to store, you know, his deer wood camper, because no one would be living in the camper. So, you know, let's talk about that.
Well, let's go ahead and deal with, let's go ahead and deal with this if we can.
Okay.
And then, you know, if we want to talk about, you know, the storage of a deer RV or whatever we want to call it. So right now, we're on the removal of everything but the first sentence in subsection B of section 2.
And so I get my question for Alderwoman Robinson answered. You've discussed removing any reference to RVs with the owner?
Yes.
Okay.
I've talked to the owners, and he's nodding out there. Both of them are in agreement. We've talked about it.
I see him out there nodding. So I just
Okay.
wanna
No
make sure.
problem.
Okay. We're ready on the amendment. On the amendment, Ms. Whitby.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Now, Alderwoman Ross
Okay.
had some amendments, and
All right.
Well, that's why I just want to make sure that I had some question on this, and I think Mr. Carter has answered my email today on this that I sent you about as far as doing interior and exterior inspections on the property, just to make sure that they're up to code before the special use is permitted. And I'm going to let
And
Mr.
that's-
Carter, because I didn't like your email answer.
Right. Well, and that has to do with the federal preemption issue about our ability to, or our authorization to inspect the inside of these facilities for safety purposes. Once they've been federally certified and they bear the insignia that they're inspected generally at the facility where they're manufactured, then we don't have the ability to inspect them for safety purposes. That's been just a point of contention between local government and mobile home manufacturers at the federal level. It was enacted in 1974. It was strengthened for the mobile home manufacturers in 2000, and that's just where we're at. We're
So
preempted.
you're saying that if we have a mobile home that's 100 years old,
35
and it's got a seal on it, and it
74.
looks like, you know, from the exterior, we can't certify it as inhabitable on the interior?
Our ability to inspect for safety is limited. At some point in time, if the thing looks like it's canting to the side and is going to endanger health or welfare, then at that point, you know, we just have to evaluate it on a case-by-case basis to say whether or not, you know, we could try to we would have sufficient interest to defeat the federal preemption. But since 1974, the law's been when they bear the stamp, we have no ability to inspect except for foundations.
Do they have any ongoing review? Does the federal government review it in any ongoing way?
I think that they're manufactured, they are in theory inspected at the manufacturing site. After that, I have no knowledge of any inspection program that they have.
So you're saying that they assume then that they are going to be fit from there on after?
Wow.
That's an interesting
It's a powerful
law.
lobby.
Well, I think it's terrible on some people, though.
That's why I said I don't agree with him, because you could have a 35-year-old mobile home that, just because it has that stamp on it, it does not meet code.
All right, just a second, Alderman Taylor. You had some amendments, or?
Well, that was what I was wanting to amend, but Mr. Carter shot me down on that one.
Sorry.
You know, this is almost a fight I wouldn't mind picking, Mr.
I know.
Carter.
Well, if we, I'd have to encourage you not to at this juncture before I could better evaluate our level of risk involved in doing that before we took on a mobile home inspection program.
Well, I don't know that I want to take on a mobile home inspection program, but Mr. Wadley, you know, one of the things that, you know, you and I can have a little bit of visit about is you know, the assumption that some of these mobile homes may not be habitable, and what we might want to do about individual cases.
If we saw them on a case-by-case basis, and I think that's what we'd have to do, if we saw an extreme situation, then of course, we're going to act however we have to act to preserve life and limb, as we always do.
And I would water down your word of extreme. I would say concern. If you have any concern about any of these mobile homes, and Mr. Wadley, I want you and I and Mr. Carter to visit to decide what legally supportable options that we may have. And I would feel like we have some. Alderman Ross?
Well, I was dead set against this first time that, when this first was brought up, and then I went out there today and I saw the improvements that have been made, but we don't know the condition of these mobile homes. And I think 2 of them are owner occupied, the others are rented out, and I don't really understand why they're any different than any other rental property as far as inspection. So, I can't vote for this not knowing whether those are even habitable. That's where I am right now. So if Mr. Carter can assure me that there's some way that they can be inspected, I could vote for it.
Mayor, may I ask a quick question? Okay. Tom, do you know if each one of those trailers are on individual electric meters and water meters?
They're on individual electric meters, I believe.
Okay, so before we turn the power on to one of those units, if it was suspect, they would want to inspect the electrical system. Is that more or less?
That'd be an electric department question, I think.
Mr. Carter?
I'm just looking at 42 U.S. Code 5403 that states no state or political subdivision of a state shall have any authority either to establish or to continue in effect with respect to any manufactured home covered any standard regarding construction or safety applicable to the same aspect of performance of such manufactured home.
Let me go a step further then. Okay, before they turn on the gas company would inspect the heaters to make sure that they were usable. If they weren't, they wouldn't turn the gas on for the water heater or the heating units. I guess what I'm trying to do is to try to figure out a way to inspect these things.
Let me just, Mr. Russ, do you have anything you can add to benefit the discussion?
The city electrical inspector has to approve the meter loop, the base, before we will put a meter in. So if it does not meet National Electric Code, he will not certify it, we will not install a meter.
That's the loop and the connection only.
That's the only thing that we have to make sure is up to code.
Okay.
Alderman Taylor?
So, Mr. Wadley, there are a certain number of these properties that have been already deemed inhabitable?
Since we haven't done the inside, I don't know if they were deemed, they're not inhabited at the time, and I believe one of them that they are moving, I believe, was it number 13? Was there one that you were moving already? There is one that they are moving that's not habitable. The others, we haven't been inside yet, but I believe those are the ones that are not occupied, that don't have electrical service.
So, it's my understanding that they're in court about some issue. Do we know what the problem is with them in court, or?
As far as the trailers?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we issued the citation.
Let me interrupt y'all just a second. I see several people fanning themselves.
74.
Are they, it's what?
74, we have a new thermostat.
We need to, Mr. Sisson, you're the thermostat puncher, so see what you can do to help us get a little cooler in here.
The citation was for several problems with the property, including appliances stored outside vehicles, just conditions of the property in general. As far as the interior of the properties, we haven't been in there. Now, we've got some issues, I think, but they're moving that one because I believe it's the one that had the broken out windows. It wasn't secured. So, but the others, we don't know. So we haven't been inside.
Mayor, can I ask Mr. Wiley a question?
Sure.
I think, refresh my memory, how many outstanding current violations are there on that property presently?
Presently,
Yeah,
I couldn't give you an accurate count, but they've corrected the majority of them.
Have they?
And I believe my officer was out there today. We've got some current photographs of the property too, if you'd like to see those.
But okay, so they're making progress.
They're making a lot of progress from when we initially went out there. There's been a lot of work done out there.
Okay. And the ones that they haven't cleared up, they're in the process of clearing up.
Yes, sir, and I believe there's some more concern because they don't own all the trailers, so now you've got individual owners of trailers that are there that could rent those trailers out. They're the landlords of the property, so they've rented the space to, if they're A, they rented it to B. The owner of the trailer B has rented to somebody that lives in it C. So now you've got two sets of landlords and two sets of tenants to more complicate the problem. So they couldn't even give us the authority to look in some of those trailers because they don't own them. They're just renting a slip. So now we're going to have to find out who actually owns the other trailers.
Let me, because I think there's enough confusion, Alderwoman Robinson, that I think, without a doubt, people are trying to help out in figuring out a way that maybe this can happen. And maybe, between now and I think whatever isn't acted on tonight will need to be refiled. If I'm not mistaken, Alderman, excuse me, I keep wanting to make you an alderman, Jason. City Attorney Carter and I have discussed, and as we're changing the new council, so if anything is not acted on tonight, it'll have to be refiled tomorrow. I might suggest that we try to hold this, and we won't take any action, give them another couple of weeks to do some more things, and then see if there's something that we might be able to do with the city attorney's suggestion that can help overcome some of the concern, because it sure appears like this council wants to try to find a way, but there are some concerns that may get in the way. So I might make that suggestion at this point. Alderwoman Robinson?
It's my understanding that they will be returning to court. When is your court date? The 20th of January? And that would cover the rest of the violations, the 20th of January. Well, I'm going to be in agreement with the mayor's recommendation that we hold this until we can get some more work done. And I know this is something that you all are probably not happy about. But I don't have a consensus up here on this with my fellow peers because they still have a lot of questions. And Ms. Ross have already indicated she couldn't vote for it because of concern that she has. So what I'd rather do is just kind of hold this. If we go back to court on January 20th, to after January 20th, we can refile it and just hold it to then. And so hopefully by then, some of the things can be taken care of.
Alderman Phillips?
This is to Mr. Wadley. Do we not have some more mobile home parks that's in the same situation that this is in? And while we're doing this, we need to have the same laws that will cover them all?
We've got some other mobile home, yes, we've got some other mobile home parks within the city.
With some issues as well.
Yeah.
The answer is yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
No, you're absolutely right. We could talk about this for a long time tonight, but I'm afraid that if it came down to a vote, it probably would not pass, would be my guess at this minute. So that's why I think Alderwoman Robinson is suggesting that we try to see what we can do to see if there's something that would be more likely to give us an opportunity to go forward. So with that, you're going to hold the legislation?
I'm going to hold the legislation.
And then it would have to be refiled.
Mayor, one question of Mr. Carter, Mr. Walls, possibly, and this is just for my sake, if the issue about the RVs hadn't come up, we wouldn't be having this discussion tonight, is that correct? If they hadn't applied for...
They were wanting to bring in a new RV on a slip that hadn't been occupied for 4 years. The utilities hadn't been activated for 4 years. We would have been expanding a non-conforming use. So we suggested this route to establish a number of slips that are going to be allowed, and staff would have guidance as to what to do.
But so it was, the trigger mechanism was the RVs?
Yes.
Otherwise, we would...
No, it was mobile
Not
home.
really. It's the ongoing debate of what is the non-conforming use? Is it the park or is it the individual mobile home? So that if one is removed, right, the whole concept of a non-conforming use that's eternally shrinking until it becomes conforming. So if one is removed, can it be replaced?
But what I'm saying is, though, if the mention of the RVs is what triggered this For us to
I
find?
don't think so.
Okay.
I think it was trying to replace one of the mobile homes that had been removed.
Alderman Phillips?
Do we not already have mobile home parks with RVs in them? Highway 70 and Central
Highway
Airport
70, I
Road.
believe, is outside the city, but,
Okay.
you know,
All right, let's go on. We got other business that we need to deal with, so that'll be held. Next item, Ms. Whitby.
New business, R10-192, Mayor Hayes.
Let's call it.
A resolution approving amounts of liens to be certified to the Pulaski County Tax Collector against certain real properties in the city of North Little Rock, Arkansas as a result of grass cutting expenses and abatement of other nuisances.
Move
So
for
moved.
adoption.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Anyone convening a public hearing on this matter, anyone who is interested in this legislation, care to address the council? Adjourn the public hearing on the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
R10-193, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement between the city of North Little Rock and the Argenta Arts Foundation appropriating funds.
Move for adoption.
Move for
Second.
adoption. Is there a second? Mr. Jeff Baskin. Jeff is the chairman of the board, I believe. You want to come up and, I held you from comments on the beginning part. You'd signed up, and so now we'll offer you the opportunity. So you're chairman of the board.
I am, whether for good or for bad, I'm chair of the Argenta Arts Foundation this year, and
For the good.
for the good. And I want to thank you all for considering this resolution. This resolution, this money will be used to support the arts program for the foundation. It's going to be used for seed money to invite corporate sponsors, other nonprofits to join us in sponsoring some of the art programs that we're considering this year. It's a very expensive proposition to bring arts programs into a city. And it's easier when the city not only pats you on the back and says that's a great program, but they partner with you. And partnering in this case means giving us some seed money to do things that we work hard to raise money for. And so your money, with the money we raise, will go forward in supporting some of these programs and getting them on track.
Let me just ask you a question. I understand that the library is supporting the Tales of the South. Can you give us
Yes.
a little bit of indication? Because I know that you're also putting some of the library's money where your comments are.
Right. This year, as chair, we realized with Paula Morrell, we were working with Paul to see if we could offset and raise money for that program, which is a wonderful program. Hopefully, most of you have heard it or been part of it. It's heard on KUAR. It's eventually going to be statewide, national, and it's now on the World Public Radio Network. We realized that it's almost impossible to raise enough funds to support that program in the way we think it needs to go. And so the library offered to take over the program and support it 100%, which is a very expensive proposition for us. But we think that that's important. We think it's really important not to let that program fail. And as programs become online in the city of North Little Rock, we also think the foundation has the responsibility to put money to support those programs, because the condition of the economy, the arts are the first to go. And these art programs are important for students in the city, they're important for teenagers in the city, and they're important for adults. We have made a name for ourselves. If you go to some of the art programs in the city of Little Rock, and you mention Argenta, they know where you're talking about. They've been to some of the programs here, and so we need to continue to support them, and we would like the city's name to be very prominently displayed as part of those programs, as part of our partnership, and use some of the seed money to bring on other corporate sponsors.
There is one issue I know that was raised, and one of the things in discussion with one council member, and I'm going to ask that this be amended. I passed out a brief amendment that's referred to as Exhibit B in the agreement that's attached to the legislation. And that essentially, the exhibit essentially says that, because it's referring to the territory of what this, of areas this will be done. And obviously, we're talking principally about our downtown, but it makes reference to gardens, community gardens, nutrition, and I know I had a chance to visit with several of your colleagues and obtained what I believe is an understanding that, while there is that focus on the downtown area, that we want to ensure that the territory that would be referenced if there was a need would be the entire city of North Little Rock.
I agree. I think some of these art programs are focused location-wise downtown, but these programs are meant for the entire territory of the city of North Little Rock, and that includes farmers market, bringing in gardens, local gardens into the farmers market. We have great and wonderful ideas, just not enough money to get them going, and that's why we're hoping so strongly that the city will support us.
Well, and with that, I passed out, my extensive amendment, so if I could get some council member to amend this end as Exhibit B.
I'll amend this as Exhibit B.
All right, there's a
Second.
motion and second to amend the Exhibit B, which is referenced in the agreement, and that simply indicates that the territory is the city limits of North Little Rock.
Absolutely, we agree.
Any further discussion on that amendment, on the motion, Ms. Whitby?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips? Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
All right, and is
Move for adoption as amended.
there a second?
Second.
I have a question.
All right.
Who is I know that you said that you're the chairman. Who is the Argenta Arts Foundation? Is this a group that's made up by?
It's a group that it's a group of merchants, generous, supporting people who are interested in arts in general, within the city.
I mean, the foundation, does this group vote on how the money is spent? And
Yes.
I guess I'm just basically the
Yes,
logistics of this.
this is a very democratic board. Some people say yes, some people say no, and we argue.
Does the city have a list of who the foundation,
It's
Yeah,
about-
would you like a list?
Well, no, I just wanted to know if anybody asked, because,
We do have a list.
If I get
It's
asked that question, I
It's
want.
very public.
Okay.
And everybody's invited to our meetings.
Okay.
Feel free to come.
There was one other thing I had, but I guess that's
But if you
it.
come, we'll ask you for donations.
Any other questions on the motion to adopt as amended?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
R10, 194, Mayor Hayes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Baskin. We appreciate the work the library does, and certainly your involvement in our Argenta community, and the North Little Rock community, obviously. Real quickly, Jeff, while you're here, just give us a little rundown on the library, if you would. Just take 2 minutes. Just tell us a little bit about the library. I know we continue to work with the library and trying to move forward the opportunity to add to the branch, but tell us a little bit about the existing branch and then some of your activities this year. I know that I had a chance, I thought I was going to have a chance, but
Yeah.
my grandson got to start the exhibit, and I think that's a pretty popular exhibit, so.
It is. We've had, I think we've had almost 2,500 people visit that train exhibit right now. It's probably our busiest exhibit since we've opened the exhibit hall. This year, we're looking at programs for 2011, and the post office is on that agenda, but right now it's a dead stop. And we believe it'll start moving forward after January 11th, when Congress gets back moving, and it's not such a lame duck Congress. So we think things will move forward. And we hope that by the end of the 2011, we could actually say we own that building. The branch right now is very busy. It's pouring out of its sides. And so we are planning to do programming in the Argenta Community Theater as our indoor space. And hopefully, when the Argenta Arts Foundation moves forward with a little bit more firm plans with the farmers market, use that as the library's outdoor space. Some of the things that you may be interested in 2011, the Arkansas Literary Festival will be on this side of the river this year. Most of Saturday, April something or other, will be here in Argenta. You'll be using all the venues up and down the street. That'll be a first for us, and it's very exciting to have the Literary Festival here. We also have the National Endowment for the Humanities just gave us a grant for a program in our exhibit hall in April, and they liked our space so much that they are doing, the NEH is going to be doing a workshop here in North Little Rock in April, inviting people from around the country to come in and view the exhibit and talk about its educational values and how to continue the work of some of those programs through the museum's grants. So we're very excited about that. And of course, the Tales from the South will be growing, and it'll be using Argenta space, but they also plan...
You'll be doing what?
We're going to be using the Argenta space for Tales of the South, but we also will be down south in... Where? We've been invited to Arkadelphia, and we're also doing a special program with P. Allen Smith when all those pink flowers bloom. So we'll be doing a Tales from the South there, particularly about tales of survivors. So we're very excited about that.
I just noticed Paula in the audience, Paula Morrell, who is the hostess of Tales of the South. Paula, would you stand up and let us thank you for bringing North Little Rock to the stage?
So we're doing well, but we know how expensive the arts are to support. So we very much thank you and appreciate the money that you're willing to give us.
You're welcome. Next item.
Mayor, I'd like to say something
sure.
before he gets away. If the people of North Little Rock hadn't been to the library, they need to come. I spent 2 weeks down there campaigning, and you will not believe how many people come to the library every day. I mean, it is, they've got computers, anything that you want, the library has. And it's the cheapest place you can go use a computer.
Well, it's a quality place, and our citizens certainly get a lot out of it, and we appreciate, Jeff, your leadership and what you've done there and continue to do. Next item.
R10-194, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution authorizing the mayor and city clerk to enter into an agreement between the city of North Little Rock and the Argenta Community Theater appropriating funds.
Move for adoption.
Second.
Vince, why don't you come up? And I know that not all, but most of the council members have had a chance to look at what, to me, I know that we're not repeating this Urban Investment Capital Fund. There weren't any dollars that we put in that this year, but I can't think of another investment that I'm aware of that could qualify more than this potential investment, assuming the approval of the council. That venue is unique. Its business plan is unique also. The opportunities certainly seem to be boundless, and would you just share a little bit of when that might open and when we can start, seeing a return on your and hopefully our investment?
Well, first of all, thank you very much for entertaining this motion. We started working on this probably within a few weeks of the death of my wife, Sally. It was really an idea that she had, and to make a long story very short, the model is very unique. It may even be unique nationally. We know it's unique in Arkansas. We know it's unique in the South, in that it is a community theater, which, by the way, there isn't anymore. In this area, and it will be used as that, but essentially the facility is the model. So what happens is the city of North Little Rock or First National Bank or Charlie Heights Company or whoever can come in and rent the facility for a seminar, for a Christmas party, for a wedding, or whatever, and that rental income gets turned in. In fact, what I like to say is, what can it not be used for? And then that rental income is going to be turned back over to the community in the form of arts grants and scholarships. So it's not something that's going to compete with the Repertory Theater, the Arts Center, or anybody else. In fact, if anything, the Repertory Theater, our partners, the Historic Arkansas Museum, the Argenta United Methodist Church is going to have services there on Sunday, which is, they've been meeting at Starving Artist for the last 2 years, and they're going to be meeting there on Sundays. The Little Rock Film Festival is going to be calling it home as the Arkansas Film Institute. Ballet Arkansas, Arkansas Rep, the Pulaski Tech. I think Jeff already told you that the North Little Rock Public Library is going to be using it as its indoor facility for various productions. The Festival of Ballet. The Clinton School is doing a master's program on the Clinton School of Public Service. One of their students is doing a master's program on ACT, as we call it, the Argenta Community Theater, to develop a statewide community theater festival to where 1 year a series of community theater productions can be brought in. The winners would, of course, receive grants, and the actors and performers would receive scholarships. Another year, I mean, the same model would be used for gospel choirs. Another year it would be used for college productions and so forth. The UCA, the Shakespeare Festival, is going to be coming in July. St. Vincent's Infirmary is using it. Of course, the Argenta itself, Downtown Council, will be using it. We're even working with the French government for doing some filming here. The Walton Center in Fayetteville is considering it. UCA is considering it. They're really the partners that will be using it. We knew there was a need for this. We just didn't realize how big a need there was for it. It can hold anywhere from 250 to 400 people, depending on the event. It's black box, meaning that the seating is not permanent inside the theater. The only permanent seating is upstairs in the mezzanine. So downstairs it can be converted into a dinner, a seminar, a college class, virtually anything that you can think of. I think many of you have already seen it. It's not quite done yet. It's very close to being done. And we hope to have it up and running by the 1st of February. We certainly hope to have had the dedication by then, and we're going to be hiring somebody to run the facility in January. And it's going to, we may have to hire 2 people because of the numbers of the interest in it. We can probably put 100 dates on the book now if we were ready, prepared to do that. And you can just count the numbers of people that will bring to North Little Rock. If you multiplied 300 events a year times a minimum of 200 people, that's 60,000 people, that we can bring downtown. And of course all that revenue that comes back to the city, as well as that income that comes to the center in the forms of rental income, and that gets turned back to the arts community. So it is a very unique model, and we think it's going to be very successful.
Can you tell us, I know that you're going to be literally next door to the Thea
Yes.
Foundation. I assume that there's a good working relationship with them and potential there.
Well, I'm the president of the Thea Foundation as well, so I've been working with the Thea Foundation for a long time. Of course, what they do statewide is well known. I mean, there's hundreds of schools throughout Arkansas that receive the benefit of the Thea. And I believe very strongly that the arts can do as much for children as football can. You know, you just have to be willing to offer that to them. I've seen what it does, and countless times. The numbers of scholarships we've done through the Thea Foundation, I think we're at like 700,000 now over the last 10 years. Yes, it is. We'll work very closely together. The Thea Foundation actually is going to hold its first event for its scholarship nominees in I think February 16th or something. It will be the first event that's actually held in the theater, in the facility itself.
Questions?
And also, so you know, there's a lot of really good people contributing money to pay for this facility. This is a $2.8 million project, of which we've got 50% of it committed already, of which the founders have been generous as well.
Well, if you'll slow down a minute or two,
Okay.
maybe we can add our names to the list.
Okay.
On the motion.
Ross?
Yes. Got to meet the producer of 2.5 Men at the theater 10 minutes ago.
White?
Motion.
I'm trying. White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Count us as a partner.
Thank you. Thank you very, very
Thank you.
much. Thank you. I'm sure she's applauding you as well. Thank you.
We all know Sally, Vince's wife, who passed away several years ago. A terrific lady. She was a product of this community and went on to perform on Broadway, overseas in Europe, and was certainly a joy to us while she was here. And remains a joy to us through, Vince, your work, and certainly the theater being named after her. So on our behalf, we'll thank both of you. Next item.
R10-195, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
A resolution appropriating funds for preparation of a downtown parking study.
Can I get a motion, if I can?
So move.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is an opportunity for us to take a look at the revenue potential, to try to develop an overall plan. This is not for a convention center parking lot or for a parking deck. There may be a small part of what this overall review might likely be, but by and large, we're going to send out RFPs and we're going to do a survey of the surface parking that we have, of our street parking, whether or not we might want to transition to a parking meter approach in some of our area. You just heard Vince talk about the kind of magnet that place might very well be. This council approved the acquisition before we bought the full property of the former Checkmate Club because of some parking issues that we're having with employees. I know that there's discussion going on with, I see John Gadan in the back, with the potential of beginning construction of a facility right across from ACT in that parking lot that presently exists between the Fawcett Building and the post office. So I think it's time that we take a look at what our opportunities are, not only, with a deck, which we've been talking about, and like I said, that might be a small part of this, but the main thrust of what this is to look at the overall options and opportunities that we have for surface parking, street parking, as well as potentially some structured parking, but that is really secondary to what this is. So I'll be happy to answer any questions. The council will have a better opportunity to take a look when we put together the RFP, but we feel we can get this done for this amount. Yes, ma'am?
When the RFP comes back, will we see it before it goes? Because that was my question, was who is doing the study, so I'm just curious.
Well, at this point, we don't know.
Right.
But you're certainly welcome to take a look at the RFP. We'll circulate it, and if anybody wants to make any comments, it's not necessarily going to be adopted by but it's certainly open for comment and review.
Right, we just want to make sure that we get the information that we're looking for.
Sure. On the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
R10-196, Mayor Hayes.
Wait, I'm
Mayor, let
sorry.
me ask a quick question. I think the RFPs for different items are available on the city's website. So, all you've got to do is go there when it's posted and you read it.
Whatever you want to do, we'll be happy to.
I was just wondering if they were taking input for the RFP before you write, when you write the RFP, you have to, what you're looking for. Just
Sure.
curious
Once they put together a foundation, then we'll circulate it, and if there's anything that you want to add or think needs to be
Because
addressed.
after it's put out, then it's too late
Sure.
to ask.
Next item,
R10-196, Mayor Hayes.
please call it.
Resolution.
Oops.
A resolution appropriating funds for construction of the North Little Rock compressed natural gas CNG fueling station.
All right.
Now, so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Obviously, this is more than we had originally projected, 100 and some odd thousand more. And yet, Mr. Smith, where are you? You want to come to the microphone? Because, I kept locking his heels every time he was talking about different things on this. This project is one that I certainly support. I support this. I hope the council does. It is additional funds, but the opportunities in terms of recovery are significant. One of the things that added cost, about $50,000, $60,000 or $70,000, I believe, was the concern that was raised during our discussions about equipping this, about additional, a separate compressor in case one went down. And I know there have been several potential, and I still think, good opportunities for people to come and to be a part of this with that assurance that we have an additional compressor should one go down. I know, that with the Fayetteville Shell, well, the total cost, we're still significantly ahead of the game in terms of what our normal match requirements are with the federal government, with $300,000 of the roughly 700 and some odd thousand. What's the total?
725,000.
725,000. 500,000 of that is committed by the state of Arkansas, as well as two of our natural gas producers in Arkansas. You want to give us some numbers on what kind of cost we would be looking at, Joe, with regard to the 3 vehicles that we have and potential more that we might add?
I today just ran through a few quick numbers, so if these are off a little bit, don't hold me to them, but I think they're good enough for conversation. That with our 3 diesel trucks that we have right now, it's Frank Griffin's opinion that we'll burn 360 gallons per week per vehicle for all 3 vehicles at $3 a gallon, which is $1,080 a week that will cost us at fuel for diesel. If we do the CNG trucks, the same amount of gallons at $1 per gallon is what we anticipate it's going to cost, would be $360. And then we are working through, from what we understand, will be a 50-cent per gallon incentive from the federal government, which would take our cost down to $180 for fuel for those 3 trucks instead of $1,000. So we're looking at $900 a week times 52 weeks, $47,000 money that we'll save just on 3 trucks.
Well, and of course, part of the benefit that Joe just mentioned was that 50-cent per gallon equivalent. Now, it was just 10 days ago, I believe, thereabouts, when the federal government passed federal legislation, obviously at the congressional level, that reauthorized a 50-cent per gallon equivalent that will go to retailers of CNG. That goes whether we buy it ourselves or whether we sell it to anyone off the street, so to speak. So whatever we sell out of that facility, then that 50-cent per gallon equivalent will be a check that I understand is written directly from the federal government, the Treasury, to the retailer, who would be us in this case. There's also, but I don't know that we can take advantage of this, there's also a 30% tax credit that was a part of that, but a government may not be able to take advantage of that. We're going to obviously pursue that, but I do know that the 50-cent per gallon equivalent that we can take advantage of, and that's a check directly written from the federal government on a periodic basis for every per gallon equivalent that we sell.
Mayor, why I was ready to bring this up so fast is because I've had a lot of business people in our wards and all that's already called, and they've asked, what are we waiting on? What are we waiting on? When they're going to buy fuel, and their fuel is about $3.28 to $3.58, and they're interested in getting in it too. And the fuel bills that in my business was running me $30,000, $40,000. That would cut it in half.
One of the things if you pick up the newspaper or watch the national news, for the first time ever during the Christmas holidays, the national average is over $3 a gallon for gas. Every logical thing that you're aware of in terms of petroleum says it's going up. There may be cycles, but it certainly says it's going up. Questions? Yes, ma'am?
What's the retrofit on these? You said we'd have the savings of like $47,000. Just curious, is what it costs to retrofit them.
Well, those 3...
or those new ones?
The 3 that we had repowered was with grants from Arkansas Department of Environmental Quality, and our part of it was very small. I'm thinking $40,000, $16,000, I can't remember.
Okay.
But it was like $70,000 per truck, and I think it was maybe a 90-10 grant, so it wasn't a whole lot of money.
So if we want to retrofit more of our trucks in the future, would it cost like $70,000 a truck to?
Yes.
If we did it. Now that's retrofitting. You know, there's an opportunity to purchase these new when we do purchase new vehicles, and that retrofitting, you know, I mean, certainly I think there'd be some additional cost, but I don't think that cost would be anywhere close to what the retrofit is.
How much more is a new one? I mean, with the CNG vehicles than just a standard diesel. Do we have any idea what the difference in cost is?
Joe?
Well, it's probably going to be maybe 10 to 20% more.
But the one thing that you've got to take a look at, and we're certainly going to do that, and that is with the access that we have to this station. Now, remember, there may be a station in Fort Smith, a retail station in Fort Smith. I know several of the folks like Chesapeake and Southwestern are looking at installing stations somewhere in their service area, but you know, from what I'm told, you know, that they may be mostly for their folks, but they're certainly not on an interstate, and they're not accessible like this. So at this point, absent the one in Fort Smith, we would be the only CNG station available to general retail customers in the state.
There's a tremendous amount of interest in other municipalities, in private industry, in bringing in their own fleet of CNG. They just have to have a source for fuel. And I get called once every 2 or 3 weeks wanting to know how far along we are, where we are, is there a problem? And, you know, I think that, of course, with y'all's approval, we should be able to start pumping gas by May 1st anyway.
One other thing, who sets the price of the gas? Are we going to have it set that we can recoup our cost out of this?
Sure.
Well,
I mean, I mean, I didn't know if there's federal guidelines on what you can charge, or.
You know, I think probably what we'll look at, and you can go on a website I mean, I've got a website I'll give you that it shows all the CNG stations in our area. It has Oklahoma, Texas, I don't know if there are any in Tennessee, Louisiana, and it gives what the cost of per gallon equivalent is. So my guess is we'd set it somewhere in the market area, you know, to try to both recoup our cost as well as, you know, as to be market reflective. You know, we're interested in obviously trying to minimize our cost, but at the same time to maximize the public availability at a reasonable level of the cost of the product.
Okay, I just want to make sure we put enough in there to recoup, which I think we, you know, over the long run.
It certainly would be our intent to.
Plus maintenance and operation.
Exactly. I mean, we've got to pay for it. It's not, you know.
Right. But the market is going to give us some indication in our neighboring states as to what's reasonable. So we're going to take a look at that and then try to make a decision that would help inspire something to give our folks a choice at a reasonable rate. On the motion?
Ross?
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
What about the sound muffling?
The what?
The sound. I know that was a question at one time.
The part of our bid
includes,
and we've discussed that in trying to value engineer this thing a little bit. It's like $20-something thousand for a split-face block wall that will cover the entire south section of that lot. And we looked at what it would cost if we did away with that and put in a wood fence. And I didn't think that y'all would want that, so I didn't take it out. So there will be a split-face concrete wall there, plus the equipment is going to be surrounded by concrete also. I just don't think it's going to be an issue.
But if there is, we can go back and take care of it, because I know that there was something in the municipal league that sent out. I know Murray's the president of the municipal league, so he probably knows what I'm talking about the sound.
Yeah, that's field pumping equipment, much
For
larger.
the CNG, the field pumping?
Yeah, much larger compression stations.
Okay.
For field lines.
Just so, you know, because there are residents around that area.
They are
so
loud.
make sure that-
These are small compressors, and they don't run all the time. You know, they'll fill up the tank and then they shut off, and then they won't start again until the tank needs to be refilled. So You know, if we're doing our pumping in the mornings at 7:30 or whenever the garbage trucks are going out, you know, they won't run at night at all.
But is it going to be open 24 hours for people
Yeah.
along the interstate? So
Yeah.
there'll be people in there 24 hours a
Yeah.
day? Okay. But we will take care of the sound if there is a problem, right?
Yeah, and
Okay.
but I really don't anticipate it.
Okay.
On the motion, on the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
R10-197, Alderman Ross.
Please call it.
A resolution establishing the North Little Rock Veterans Memorial Committee and appointing members of the committee.
I'll discuss this. Can I open
Want to
this up
move for adoption?
I move for adoption, yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Now,
Now, what this is, the North Rock Veterans Advisory Committee that did such a wonderful job as far as the building of the Veterans Memorial, all their terms expire December the 31st, so there will no longer be an advisory committee. What this is establishing a Veterans Memorial Committee to oversee the committee on an ongoing basis for future ceremonies, maintenance, anything that may need, you know, the grounds will be taken care of by the library, but it's just a three-person committee. They don't have to just meet on an as-need basis. It's just a very informal committee, just take care of anything that may need to take care of. And then there's 3 appointments on here, too.
any questions on the motion?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Can I say something? Mr. Jeff Baskin, I guess this is his not to be picked on, but in here it states that the 3 can pick between the chairman of the committee, and I have a feeling that it may be Mr. Baskin, so I'm just giving you fair warning.
Jeff, we appreciate you. Next item, Ms. Whitney.
Ordinances O10-93, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
An ordinance establishing job classifications and numbers of employees for each department of city government of North Little Rock for the year 2011. First reading.
Go ahead and take it to third reading, then I'll bring Mr. Sisson up if anybody's got any questions.
Move to suspend the rules, placed on second reading.
Second it.
On the motion?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance establishing job classifications and numbers of employees for each department of the city government of North Little Rock for the year 2011. Second reading.
How about suspending the rules one more time?
Move to suspend the rules and place it on third reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance establishing job classifications and numbers of employees for each department of the city government of North Little Rock for the year 2011. Third and final reading.
Sir Sisson, come on up and just give us a brief little summary and then see if anybody has any questions.
Before we finish, there is one typographical error that we made that we need to correct, but in the general fund, most of these are title changes only. There is 2 additional people that's in the emergency services that we're going to try to eliminate some overtime. The rest of the general fund, I'll be happy to answer any of the particular questions, but I don't believe there is any additional people in there. The electric has several changes. No additional bodies. It's still the same thing. They're getting more technical people. The way he's going to do business, we have to have a little more skill in the electric department. The parks always makes a lot of changes, trying to find the correct mix of employees. We have had some contract employees that we're having to put on as employees rather than as contract, and that's basically it. I'll be happy to do any
Anyone have any
particular.
questions?
Just the 2 under administration, and I think it's 2 new jobs, but it's 2 old positions, is that correct?
Their positions that at this time are not filled, and they're reclassifying and getting, one of them is a wellness, health, education, and nutrition.
What is the other, was something Director of Government Affairs or something?
No, it's a...
Because I thought that's...
I don't think that's the exact title. It's special projects.
I think that's apparently what he ended up being in American special projects. Work
Right.
with Joe.
Essentially, someone that can do a variety of things. you know, it's a whatever kind of position, if you want to put it that way. The other reclassification, we're going to really try to deal as much as we know how to take advantage of the $1.5 million, as well as the technical advice that we're receiving from the National League of Cities, and that person is going to be the one that helps us coordinate our nutrition and wellness program. That I think we really have an opportunity to take a leadership role, not only in our state but in our region, and we're going to need someone to help carry the ball. We do have a person that we've hired under the grant that will also be working in this area. So, you know, this is this individual will be more charged with direct city health and wellness, and we're looking forward to getting this person on board. We've been working on a job description, and we're excited about it.
And Mayor, the Director of Special Projects was what was left, and I'm sorry.
So it's Deputy Director of Government Affairs?
I'm sorry, I think there's a typo error there. When you deleted it deleted and said it was going to be added Director of Government Affairs, but up there where it added it, it says Director of Special Projects. You see in the blue?
Mm-hmm.
That's really the position. This other is deleting one down below. And when you delete it, it was in error and said we was adding one that said Deputy Director of Government Affairs. So we could eliminate that position, even though it does not add any positions to it. That definition.
Gotcha. Okay, I got it now.
Do you understand that?
So it's a Deputy of Special Projects, a Director of Special Projects.
That's what ended up being in there.
That's the new one.
That's what it ought to be.
And that is what's in there.
Okay.
Right. The city attorney, I had requested we had an error back on utilities accounting.
That's a required amendment in section 27 on page 9. Fourth item down, City Services Information Systems Manager is designated as a F14-1 position, which ought to be an exempt position, NEG-1. Is that correct?
Right, negotiated position, right. Mm-hmm.
Is that an amendment we need?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, state the amendment then.
General Manager?
That under section 27, the position designated City Services Information Systems Manager should be amended such that F14-1 is stricken and NEG-1 is inserted.
Got that, Ms. Whitby?
Yes, sir.
Is there someone that might help and make that motion?
That's my motion.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion to amend?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
There's several, in sanitation, if someone would like some explanation. There was no, I don't believe, any increase. They were all either lower grades or the same.
Any questions? On the motion let's get a motion to adopt as amended, since we just amended it. Is there a motion to adopt as amended?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
On the emergency, Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
O-1094, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it, Ms. Whitby.
An ordinance waiving formal bidding requirements for sediment removal at Lake Number 2 and appropriating, Lakewood Lake Number 2 and appropriating funds, first reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place on second reading.
Second.
On the motion?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance waiving formal bidding requirements for sediment removal at Lakewood Lake Number 2, appropriating funds, second reading.
Move to suspend the rules, placed on third and final reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
On the motion?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance waiving formal bidding requirements for sediment removal at Lakewood Lake Number 2, appropriating funds, third and final reading.
On the question?
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
On the emergency, Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
O-1095.
Just a comment on that legislation. My ward, Ward 4, and which encompasses a portion of Lakewood and Indian Hills and Windsor Valley and northeast Lakewood, is that area primarily north of Interstate 40, and that runs up that corridor along John F. Kennedy Boulevard, east and west. does not have a city-owned park in it. And anytime the city can do something to help the recreational efforts in my part of the world, I certainly appreciate it. Even though this lake is not, Lakewood, Lake number 2 is not in Ward 2, a lot of the people that reside in Lakewood benefit from the recreational opportunities on Lake number 2. So
Well, a lot of your water runs into that lake too, that brings that sediment with you. But we're proud to do it, and it sure seems, obviously, this council is unanimous in that feeling. Alderman Witcher?
I was going to reiterate what Mr. Height said. Of course, the improvement will be in Ward 1. This is not the first time since I've been on the council we've done this. I think this is probably the third time.
Our fourth.
Our fourth, that we've cleaned out that area from the docks back to the drainage structure on Snake Hill. So this is really nothing new for us. But to reiterate what he said, we'd like to have a public park in Ward 4 someday.
But do you want us to take this money back then, or you want to?
No, not tonight.
Obviously, I'm being a little bit humorous, but you're close to a lot of parks. The biggest one in the state, right, just a stone's throw in Ward 3, right? Thank you all very much. We appreciate it. Next item.
01095, Mayor Hayes.
Please call it.
An ordinance decreasing residential and commercial electric rates for customers of the North Little Rock Electric Department. First reading.
Move to suspend the rules and place it on second reading.
Second.
Motion made and second. Let's see how much debate we have on this. On the motion.
My computer, I'm done.
why can't it be more?
Ross?
On the
Yes.
motion.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance decreasing residential and commercial electric rates for customers of the North Little Rock Electric Department. Second reading.
Move to suspend the rules, place it on the third reading.
Second.
On the motion.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
An ordinance decreasing residential and commercial electric rates for customers of North Little Rock Electric Department. Third and final reading.
On the question.
Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
On the emergency, Ross?
Yes.
White?
Yes.
Taylor?
Yes.
Robinson?
Yes.
Phillips?
Yes.
Height?
Yes.
And Witcher?
Yes.
Concludes new business.
Thank you, Ms. Whitby. Before I ask any council member and then turn it over for those who have signed up for public comment, I just wanted to thank each member of the council. Tonight we allocated various amounts of city revenue, city funds, taxpayer money, and a good bit of that was dedicated toward the arts. Increasingly, there more and more becomes evidence of how important that is in a community's life and livelihood. With what the council did tonight, along with, to me, being very progressive in moving forward with the first CNG station in Arkansas, literally that, absent the perhaps one in Fort Smith, says a lot about this community and a lot about, the forward thinking and the movement toward choice that it's giving its citizens. The electric department, again, we talk about them and the movement toward smart meters, the choice that the council's moving forward with in the CNG availability, the investment in the creative portion of our community as we partner with not only our school district but also the downtown folks, and as we stretch out into the community at large as we're moving toward our community gardens. I want to just thank each one of the members of the council for really taking a very strong leadership role and giving guidance to this community in ways that will both repay us, but more than anything else, repay those who live here and those who visit here. North Little Rock is thought of statewide as a leader. I want to also underline our appreciation for Alderman Witcher as he continues to lead the Arkansas Municipal League.